It's July 9th, 2024, and it's an honor and privilege to speak with a World War II veteran, Mr. John Jeckovich, and we're reading over his book, Their Mother's Sons, and that basically takes you from kindergarten to his retirement. And the keynotes we've been speaking about mostly has been his time in World War II, which is primarily the Battle of Bulge. It was a very bloody and long, drawn-out battle. Mr. Jeckovich still has shrapnel in his leg, and he got shot in his head, shot in his shoulder by a machine gun, but thank God it went completely through and did not hit the bone. So this chapter we're speaking of is chapter 8. We're on page 197, and this chapter is titled as Jean, Sonatas, and Bombers.
Say again?
Jean, Sonatas, and Bombers. At this point, Mr. Jeckovich has been through several basic training camps in the United States, Camp Breckenridge, San Antonio, Sam Houston, many training camps, and now he's sent over to Haverfordwest, Wales, where they're doing their final training before they send these young boys on the front lines. Before they send these young boys on the front lines. And incidentally, the Battle of Bulge, 106, Mr. Jeckovich was in a short time, and most of the 106th Division, none of those young boys made it, only a few left. They were surrounded by about 400,000 Germans. That was Hitler's last-ditch effort to try to win the war, but he knew he didn't have a chance. So we're going to start reading chapter 8, Jean, Sonatas, and Bombers, there's approximately 900 pages in Mr. Jeckovich's book, so well, plenty to read, and we've been getting questions sent to us all around the world, so via email. So if you want to text a question, let me give you a number, jot it down. You can text a question, and I'll ask Mr. Jeckovich directly and let him attempt to answer it. Any questions pertaining Battle of Bulge, World War II, text it to area code 407-366-0000.
What's that?
To text your questions or emailing it, but they might get to you directly at 407-366-0000.
Or they can leave a comment here.
Or you can leave a comment on the YouTube, but if you care to send a text, I'll show it to Mr. Jeckovich right away, and we'll see if he's available to answer it. So, before we go, we need the passcode. What was your dog tag number, Mr. Jeckovich?
42965.
I'm ready to start reading. World War II, with the rise to power of Adolf Hitler and the Nazis in the 1930s, Germany discreetly began to program a rearmament that culminated in the invasion of Poland. That was the beginning. Once they came into Poland, a lot of red flags went up, and then shit hit the fan. Within days, the world was at war with the Nazi forces conquering Denmark, Norway, Holland, Belgium, and France. Although Britain remained resolute and withstood the might of the German armed forces, particularly the face of Hitler's invasion plans, initially the Americans were content just to help the Allies with the sale of arms, kind of like we're doing in several countries now. We're selling them arms. Well, now we're giving them arms, billions of dollars worth. But the unprovoked Japanese attack on Pearl Harbor on December 7th, 1941, brought the United States into conflict. Although a quick solution to Nazi dominance proved elusive. So we were happy at that time of just providing heavy weapons to the countries that were battling Germany. But an unprovoked attack on the ships in Pearl Harbor, at that time there, the Americans were all in. They weren't just providing,
Ask him where he was in Pearl Harbor.
they weren't just providing weapons anymore. They were one of the Allies. Where were you during the attack on Pearl Harbor? December 7th, 1941.
I was at the Creek skating.
You were just a young boy. You were
Yeah,
in,
that was what, 17, 18.
no, you're probably younger than that. You were, give me
Yeah,
a number. Give me a number, 41 to his birthday. And so that news spread like wildfire of the attack on Pearl Harbor.
yeah.
Yeah. And when the United States entered, they thought the conflict would be short. It wasn't. It went on for a while. World War II ended.
He was 16.
You were 16 years old skating on the creek at Pearl Harbor. You were too young to go into the Army. World War II ended in 1945. May 8th in Europe. So World War II officially ended May 8th in Europe. And then we had to wait all the way to September 2nd for the Japan to end the war.
Yeah.
And if it wasn't for the A-bomb, atomic bomb, that
They would be over there.
you'd still be there fighting. But the end of the World War II was basically at the last battle that Mr. Jeckovich was in. That was the Battle of the Bulge. It was devastating. It was just, it started off with 100,000 Allies and 400,000 Nazis. And that was Hitler's last-ditch effort. And he said, listen, I'm going to win, but if I don't win, I'm going to kill a lot of Americans before I do. And as it turned out, he did kill a lot of Americans. He didn't win. And in his final days,
Those were the dates of the Battle of the Bulge, right there.
yeah, the Battle of Bulge basically went from December 16th, 1944 to January 16th, 1945. That was the last major German offensive on the Western Front during World War II, an unsuccessful attempt to push the Allies back from German home territory.
But there was some rough stuff after that.
Yeah, there was still a little action after that. But the war in the Pacific kept on going. But the war in the Pacific kept on going in Japan. They had a lot of problems. Like, for example, when we had a very important base in Saipan, and when a lot of the Army's military, U.S. military, went to Saipan, the Japanese were brutal fighters. Even though they weren't in the Army at the time, they grabbed anything they could fight with against the U.S. Army soldiers. They would grab bottles, bats, clubs, anything they could find, and they'd hide in tunnels, and they'd come out 10 on 1 to American. When the American soldiers or Marines got to Saipan, they thought they were going to clear this up in 2 or 3 days. But the elusive fighters of the Japanese, hiding in tunnels and hand-to-hand combat that hit you with anything they got, it took almost 2 months to clear that up. But getting back to the Battle of Bulge, at a long shot, Hitler was going no matter what. If at a long shot, if we lost the Battle of Bulge, Germany was still going because they're getting ready to drop the atomic bomb on him too. They just really, everyone had enough of him. And as a result, more than 38 million people died during 1939 to 1945, many of them civilians. And it was only the ones that came close to many uncovered gruesome details of the true atrocities that had taken place across the globe. Primarily, the SS. They were godless, horrible people. They would torture soldiers. They'd gather a couple American soldiers in a field and shoot them. And then after they shot them with machine guns, there's 100 or so young American soldiers laying in the snow. And then the Nazis would yell out, the SS would yell out to the soldiers, all bloodied in the snow. They'd say, "Does anyone need any help? I'll send a medic." And as soon as, a young boy's shot, probably panicking, he said, "Yeah, I need help." Came up and blew their brains out. The SS were horrible, godless creatures. And so that was Mr. Jeckovich's time during the Battle of Bulge. And during that time, Mr. Jeckovich, you sent many V-mails home.
155.
155. Do you have trace of any of those V-mails now?
Huh?
Do you have a track of any of those V-mails now?
No.
Could you give
Sally did something with them.
What's that?
Sally.
Sally? Okay.
Yeah, she got pissed off.
That was, but most of the V-mails that you sent, they had to go through a process by the government.
Censors, yeah.
Censored. Okay. And I'm just going to read a couple of examples I was able to find of V-mails from other soldiers that sent home and responded, with their V-mails. And I'm going to pick out a couple short ones, but these are the typical V-mails that the soldiers would send.
Hi, Ma, how's everything going at home? I'm good here. The weather's kind of cold. You taking care of the furnace? Furnace is all right? Okay, bye-bye.
I'm just going to take a couple short examples. Mom and Dad, it's pretty hard to check out this way without a fighting chance, but we can't live forever. I'm not afraid to die. I just hate the thought of not seeing you again. Buy Turkey Ranch with my money and just think of me often. And while you're there, make liberal donations to both sisters. See that Gary has a new car. And
What donations? What sisters?
this is just an example of V-mails other soldiers sent home.
Oh.
I'll start this one again. This is notify C.R. Kennedy in California. This is a letter they wrote, the death of son, Lieutenant Thomas Kennedy. Mom and Dad, it's pretty hard to check out this way without a fighting chance, but we can't live forever. I'm not afraid to die. I just hate the thought of not seeing you again. Buy Turkey Ranch with my money and just think of me often while you are there. Make liberal donations to both sisters. See that Gary has a new car his first year of high school. I'm sending Walt's medals to his mother. He gave me them on September 42, the last time I saw him and Bud. They went to Japan. I guess you can tell, Perry, that fate just didn't want us to be together. Hold a nice service for me in Bakersfield and put a headstone in the new cemetery. Take care of my nieces and nephews and don't let them ever want anything as I want, even warmth or water now. Loving and waiting for you in the world beyond, your son, Lieutenant Tommy Kennedy. So, yeah, I got pages and pages of these V-mails, and I wish I could locate yours, but we had no such luck. We had no such luck. Let me see if I find one more short one.
And it showed those tabs I rolled up to Delphine.
Yeah.
There's 30 of them there. I think put it in the drawer, the dresser, the dining room, living room.
Wait, say that again now?
Huh?
Say that again?
The little message I gave Delphine every day.
Yeah,
a
I'll
piece of scrap
find them.
paper.
I'll find them.
Breakfast is good today, great today. Don't work too hard today. I'll be back. I'll be back home tonight.
Yeah, those are beautiful messages.
I'll be back home. Where the hell is I going back home tonight? I just said that.
General George S. Patton, removed from main action on D-Day, offers some fathering advice to his son George. It is hell to be on the sidelines and see all the glory eluding me, wrote General George S. Patton on June 6, 1944. But as much as he hated it, Patton was on an integral part of the most brilliantly orchestrated deceptions in military history, Operation Fortitude. As tens of thousands of Allied troops poured onto the beaches of Normandy, Adolf Hitler was certain it was fate. The real invasion force, he insisted, would leave Dover, the English port closer to France, and strike Pas-de-Calais. German reconnaissance had determined an army of enormous size was mobilizing near Dover under the command of Patton. The Allied general, the Germans most feared. So the Germans didn't care for Patton. No. In fact, there was no army. Hollywood set designers had helped the Allies construct a dummy airfields, oil storage depots, landing aircraft near Dover. Full-size inflatable rubber tanks were lined up in massive rows. Fake messages were transmitted to simulate radio traffic, and double agents for Germans misleading information. Field Marshal Rommel pleaded with Hitler to release the armored division from Calais region after Normandy landings.
Yeah, I remember that. They were faking that. Yeah.
Normandy landings.
Yeah.
Calais. By the time Hitler recognized his folly, the Allies had firmly established in France. On D-Day itself, the commander of the Phantom Army had virtually nothing to do. Crushed he was missing the opening kickoff and restless, Patton whittled away in the hours writing his diary and sending off letters, including the following to his son. George enrolled at West Point. Excerpts of the letter have been published before, but they were edited for length and clarity. The entire letter transcribed below was originally typed. We'll get that to another day. But right now, we're going to be on Jean, Sonatas, and Bombers.
Now what?
Sonatas and Bombers. Jean Young, Sonatas, and Bombers. I went back to the billets where I discovered that Leip had gone to London on a 3-day pass, and several people from the second squad had gotten charge of quarters. For the next 24 hours, he asked what my plans were for the weekend as he prepared to leave to go on duty. I said that I would probably just hang around the area and possibly take a walk about the countryside. I knew that afternoon I would have to sign out, and Fink would be in the orderly room and would see my name on the sign-out sheet one way or another. When it came time to leave to see Jean, I walked into the orderly room. Because Fink was nowhere about, I signed out with the present time after my name and proceeded up the steep incline to Jean's place. Jean's place was a small cottage, right?
Right.
Jean Young's house was a small cottage in Haverfordwest.
Yeah, yeah.
Wales. A very modest place, correct?
Yeah.
Upon arriving, I saw Jean outside, waving cheerfully at me as I approached her. She had 2 bicycles beside her and a large wicker picnic basket tied down on her luggage rack behind her bike. Minutes?
8 minutes.
She informed me that I had... You want to check the mail?
Yeah.
She informed me that I had her father's bicycle, which was larger of the 2, and gleefully inquired if I knew how to ride a bike. So Jean asked you if you knew how to ride a bike, correct? When you go on a picnic with Jean in Haverfordwest, Jean inquired to you if you knew how to ride a bike, because she was going to let you use her father's bike.
Yeah.
But little did she know, when you're a young boy, 12, 11, and 12, you had a Schwinn Phantom that you delivered your papers on.
Black Knight.
Black Knight.
Yeah.
So you're well experienced in driving a bike, correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
I remember 150 newspapers were delivered too.
Okay, so there we go. So you're well experienced on a bike. And to show her my prowess on the bike, I gave her a demonstration right there. Suffice to say, I almost fell off the bike, as the English bicycles are a little different from the American bikes. They have thin-walled tires, and the seats are more elevated than I'm used to. Also, the handlebars are at a different angle, much more like our racing bikes, or more so. So they're more like the design of a 10-speed bicycle, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah.
A racing bike.
Not a comfortable bike to ride. Not a comfortable bike to ride. It was the ideal time for a bike ride. The temperature was in the 40 to 50 degree range. With a slight overcast and no threat of rain, Jean decided to head out in a northerly direction on Highway A40, the same route the company had taken on our last hike. There was no vehicle traffic, only some horse-drawn two-wheel carts and several bicyclists such as us. I stayed behind Jean on the curbs and the steep overlooks. Otherwise, I rode beside her as I became accustomed to this bicycle. She wore a full skirt which reached several inches below her knees, but when she would pedal faster, the wind caught it just right. It was afforded the opportunity to witness a beautiful pair of legs and thighs. She wore a flat-heeled shoe, but even with a nondescript attributes, she displayed a pair of trim ankles. As I followed her, I could not help noticing the trim figure she had, and as she sat on a rigid bicycle seat, moving her legs up and down as she pedaled. She was aware of my watching her, but it did not seem to distract her at least a bit. After an hour or so of pedaling, we took our first break. I was somewhat breathless, but was still breathing normally. She cheerfully reminded me that I was not acclimated to a higher altitude and that we're steadily climbing higher as we rode. What's that?
Junk mail.
Hand it to him.
What's it gonna do?
Huh? Hand it to him.
Junk mail, mail call.
Mail call. Let's see what you got there, Mr. Jeckovich.
And here we might have that opener.
I don't know if we have that thing.
It was in an envelope.
Wait, I'll get you a letter opener. Hold on. I'll get you a letter opener.
It's in an envelope.
Now, what is that?
Just a minute. We're getting you a letter opener.
It was in there.
Just a minute.
Maybe it's not in there now.
Oh, current resident.
You see anything there? He's gonna do it himself.
Okay.
I got it, I got it, I
All
got
right, what do you got there?
it. Go ahead, open it up.
Put this there.
What is it, John?
Moose. What the hell is this?
Doing it now. Not-
Cougar.
What is it?
Advertising.
Okay, what are you buying?
I don't know what the hell they're selling.
Huh,
Cougars.
what is that?
Same thing. Here.
Let me take a look what your mail says.
Cougars is a department store.
Okay. 50% off annual Boost membership. And
Yeah.
you don't need this.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
You
Throw it
want me
out.
to throw it in the garbage?
Yeah, throw it out.
Garbage, okay. Let's continue reading. That was the exciting mail for the day. Okay. A short while after our break, we found a spot under a large clump of majestic oak trees. How old do you say those oak trees were?
Oak trees?
Yeah, when you're driving with Jean in Haverfordwest. You said you found a
They were
lot.
20 feet high, 20, 25 feet high, about 2 or 3 feet in diameter.
Must have been beautiful.
Yeah.
Beautiful, beautiful. Jean knelt to lay out our picnic lunch. As I watched her, it reminded me of Anne and our picnics together. And it seemed so far remote from what I was experiencing now. The entire setting was peaceful and tranquil. It was hard to imagine a war going on only a short distance away. I was beginning to acquire a fondness for this area's beauty as I stretched out on the velvet short grass under the trees. There were skylarks soaring overhead.
What was going over there?
Skylarks, birds were soaring overhead, intermingled with buzzards and their graceful gliding about as they searched for their next meal. I could hear strange, persistent bird calls when Jean informed me were curfews in the mating season. Curlews in the mating season. Going through the ritual and selecting their mates, also in the wane of autumn migration season, the last of the waiting birds settled in for the day in the mud flats, which was also their feeding grounds.
They were coming from South America.
Yeah, imagine that.
And stupid butterflies did that too.
Yeah, wow. Imagine. I felt a special affinity for this place and wished I could linger here longer or return someday.
15 seconds. So we're gonna pick it up in a few.
Do it right now.